So what we're going to look at is understanding while loops. In order to copy this, you can start at the bottom and hit Control C at the same time, or you can right click and click copy. The same command is over here, Control plus C, or you can start at the top and make sure you get all of it and don't go too far. In CodeBender, delete everything else that was previously there and paste it. So you can do this one of two ways, Control V, or you can right click and paste, which it has the same command, Control V. Starting at the top in line 1 of the text, these numbers over here designate what line of code this is. So in line 1, these two forward slashes mean it's a comment. So it's saying that this is understanding for loops. Comments are useful for coders to write hints of what the code does in their own code. Eventually, it's going to be more than 17 lines long. In line 3, void setup, this is going to run the program one time. And these curly brackets, if you click behind the curly bracket, you'll notice the pair of it. So the one that faces the opposite direction highlights or lights up in a ghost box. So everything inside these pairs of curly brackets belong to void setup. Just like everything inside of here belongs to the while command. And everything right here belongs to the void loop command. Serial begin 9600 semicolon, this starts the serial monitor. And the big part here is serial is capitalized, and then 9600 is the baud rate we are going to use to talk to the computer. All statements are ended in a semicolon. Usually functions don't have those, just like the while function. It doesn't have a semicolon to end it. In line 6, we say int I equals 1 semicolon. So int stands for integer. So we're setting the variable I. That's what the standalone letter will be called as a variable. You can change this to any letter you want. You can change it to a word. You just have to be ready to rewrite that word throughout the rest of the code. As you can see, after I highlighted I, the rest of the I's in the code are highlighted. We set this to a value of 1. So equal sign is an assignment operator, so the value of I is 1. It can't be a decimal because it's an integer. This is ended by the semicolon. In line 7, we have a while loop. So the difference between a while loop and a for loop is a while loop can only say the condition in its parentheses. A for loop says the initialization, the condition, and the increment. So a while loop just says the condition of stopping at 10. So it's taking this value of I and it's going to stop this command at 10. The command it's going to do is serial print I semicolon. So there's no quotations here because we're printing the value of something, the value of a variable. This is ended by a semicolon and it's inside the bracket, so I know it's a part of the while loop. Line 10 is something new, so I++ is just a different way to write I equals I plus 1. So instead of writing all that out, you can just write I++ and it equals the same thing. Void loop, we're not using that right now, so that one is empty. If I were to upload this code, it's going to start at the value 1, it's going to stop at 10 when it's equal to or greater than 10, and it's going to print I each round, increasing by 1. Running the code with the right arrow and opening the serial monitor, we have to connect this in order to see. This is from a previous run, so that is not what this code says. So we have to connect it every time. And it says 1 through 10, but it's all bunched together. And you might be asking yourself, why is it all bunched together? Well, that's because we never told the code to separate each letter. We just told it to print I with no space in between. Another way to do this, just to make it more visually appealing, we could say serial print parentheses, comma, so whatever's in the parentheses, if we wanted to print a phrase or a word or a symbol, we would put it in between parentheses, and we're going to print a comma. To change this up, let's start at the value of 10, and let's go down to the value of 0. We need to decrease our increment instead of increase because we're going the opposite direction. This is just a simple exercise to see how this works. The reason this isn't going to work, and I'll just show you, I'm going to run the Arduino, the brain, the code's going to come back, it's going to open the serial monitor, and there's going to be nothing. The reason being is because we're starting at 10, and if we look at our symbols right here, 10 is already larger than 0. So we're saying the code's going to stop when I is less than or equal to 0. We need to switch this up to say, because we're starting at such a high number, I is going to be bigger than 0 right away. So now we say that I is going to stop when it's equal to or less than 0. So it depends which way you have this oriented if the code's going to run or not. And then we have it minus minus. It's the same as saying I equals I minus 1. So instead of writing this all out, we just wrote I minus minus. Uploading this code, we're going to start at 10, go down to 0, and then it's going to decrease by 1 every round. So that is what it produces. A while loop is a more general for loop, and a for loop you are able to say more than just a condition in the parentheses.